Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Build, where we document building of the business and building for next year's marathon. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about conditions. Are the conditions right for me to build a business, for me to start training for a marathon? Should we do something if the conditions aren't perfect? And I remembered this quote by Alex Hormozi, and he says it so succinctly and so powerfully. He says, people think they need the perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of waiting for the right conditions, waiting for the right time. I think I've waited too long because I've believed that the perfect conditions are out there and that one day maybe I would be ready and the conditions would be ready. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about starting and not waiting. Let's get after it. Talk about less than ideal conditions to be starting this band business, this band business for ostomy patients. This is not the ideal time for me. I moved my job in March, so about 8 months ago. I went from Fidelity, a rather large firm where my income was elevated, and I took a risk by joining a small RIA. And this is going to pay off in the long run, but I did take a substantial pay cut to make this move and to take this risk. So pouring capital, pouring money into just this idea is very risky right now. I've got a wife, 3 kids, a house. It's not the ideal time to be taking money and to be pouring it into kind of a side business to see what can come of it. But I know that life is too short. I've been given a different perspective after my ostomy. I know that waiting, sometimes it's wise, but most of the times it's just procrastination. So here I am prioritizing taking some action, taking some risk, seeing where it's going to pay off. But this is not the ideal conditions to be trying to start that business in. And it's also challenging because I'm working really early in the morning, really late at night to try to respect my day job, right? Like right now I'm in the office before everybody else so that I can shoot this video and respect my 9 to 5, right? But that's just the reality of trying to start a side hustle, to start a business on the side. It's not easy, takes precious time, energy, and money, but the risk has to be taken. So here we go. Talk about less than ideal conditions. I'm building for that marathon in 2026. I don't know, May or June is my target. And that means I'm starting to train in the fall, October, November. Today is Tuesday, November 4th. It's about 10:30 at night. That means it's in the 30s and 40s when I'm usually running. So I know we're talking bigger picture, but even the conditions of this marathon build aren't perfect. I've run in 10-degree temperatures. I've run in 100 and humid. I've run in it all, and I will run in it all. But if I'm being honest, this is not the ideal conditions. These are not the conditions I would choose to train for a marathon in. However, I want to be running a marathon next May or June when the weather's beautiful, which means I have to endure in the cold weather, the bad weather. You have to put the hours in the dark so that you can kind of shine in the light, as kind of the cheesy saying goes. But that's the reality. It's the reality for this build, right? Of when I wake up in the morning and it's 5:30 a.m., it's hard to get out of bed knowing I have to go put on sweats and a sweatshirt and then go get warmed up and stretched in the gym where it's 35 degrees. That's hard. And I think that same thing exists whenever you want to start a new habit with your family or a business, or you're just trying to do something new. You're trying to start something, gain some momentum. There's never a good condition to start in. It's never perfect. You never have enough money. You never have enough time or energy, or somebody's always sick, or there's an injury. There's just always something that we could say, you know what, this isn't the best time. These aren't the ideal conditions to be starting. But the best condition is just to start, because you have to make some progress. At some point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, it can be 10:30 at night, it can be cold, it can be whatever, but I'm still going to do what I committed to. I'm not going to negotiate with myself. And so that's where I'm at. I'm sick of waiting for the perfect conditions. I really want to run a marathon next year, which means I'm going to have to train in the cold, in the dark, and log some lonely miles. But the work has to be done, and I don't care what the conditions are. I love the book Atomic Habits, and one of the lessons that stood out to me and that came to my mind when I was thinking about this video and this concept that there's no such thing as perfect conditions. It was this concept, it's right out of chapter 11 if you're going to go read the book, but it talks about that best is the enemy of good, right? If I just read for you, it said we're so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to taking action. And this is me. I'm a planner. I like to have my ducks in a row. I like to have an understanding of how everything's gonna work. For instance, as I'm building out this YouTube series, I wanna understand the first 10 videos before I even start creating them. I wanna understand how I'm gonna build this business the first year when I just need to take the first step, right? So for me, and maybe for you, this idea that I have to have the best approach, like I prioritize that over taking action. And it goes on to talk about how that's a way of procrastinating. We're telling ourselves, we're convincing and selling ourselves that we're actually doing the right thing, that it needs to be perfect, it needs to be great, when in reality, we need to take action. It goes on to talk about how there's a difference between being in motion and taking action. Those ideas are similar, they sound similar, but a lot of times we're in motion. We're brainstorming 10 ways to do this. We're thinking of ideas when in reality we're just going in circles. We're not ever actually taking any action. So for me, I spin my wheels on even how to create this video. Even tonight, I kept procrastinating because I wanted it to be the best. I wanted everything to flow. I wanted to understand what I was going to do. And finally, I just said, I need to take the principle that the best is the enemy of good, and I need to just go take action and do it. So that applies to so many areas of our life, but especially when we're thinking about the conditions that we're starting in. They don't need to be the best. We don't have to have the best plan, the best strategy. Sure, those things are good and important, but not at the detriment of taking action. So let's take some action. When I think about building for the marathon and I think about building this business and the conditions of my life, the conditions and the season of life that I'm in, there's a lot of days where I don't feel like doing the right thing. There's a lot of days where I don't feel like going to work out. There's a lot of days I don't feel like waking up early or staying up late to work on the business, which is what I have to do because I have a day job, I have a family, I have other priorities that I can't just get rid of. And so this feeling, we have to put our feelings in the back seat of the car. Too many of us, and I've done this at times, we allow our feelings to hop in the driver's seat, and our feelings get to dictate our actions. They take the wheel and they turn us left and they turn us right based on our mood for the day or the mood of the hour. And all of a sudden, we never get to the finish line. We never get to our desired destination because we let feelings take hold of the wheel. And so I'm reading this book called The Practice, and it's all about being creative, being a leader, kind of doing the thing that you feel called to do is kind of the summary. And there's this chapter where it talks about your work is too important to be left to how you feel today. And that just hit home, right? Like, my work and your work and the things we really feel called to do, led to do, the real work in our life, it's too important to be left for how we feel. And I'm reminded, even as I'm speaking, this applies to me being a husband and a parent and following Christ first and foremost, right? Like those things always have to get my first and best energy. But the other things I choose to do and choose to prioritize, I've chosen them because they're important to me. And I can't leave it up to feelings. And this last line, waiting for a feeling is a luxury we don't have time for. I think having some urgency in our life, having that clock in the back of my mind has really helped me focus the past 6 to 12 months. It's really helped me focus understanding I don't have all the time in the world, right? Time goes by fast. We don't get to redo a year. We don't get to redo a day or a week or a life. We have to be focused. And so our work is too valuable and time is too short for us to wait on feelings. So as you're considering the season and the conditions that you're in, that you want to start something, but the conditions don't feel perfect, I hope this video inspires you. These are some of the thoughts I've had, some of the lessons I've been learning, and I'm trying to apply to my life. But I hope this encourages you. It inspires you to start. The perfect condition is to just start, regardless of the conditions of your life. So thanks for tuning in. Wait for the next video next week, and be full.